The movie begins on Mars, where a team of 8 scientists is nearing the end of their 6-month expedition. With only a day left before their scheduled return to Earth, tension and anticipation run high among the crew. Charles, the leader of the team, gathers everyone at the base for an important briefing. During this time, 3 team members, Vincent, Rebecca, and Kim, make their way back to the base, while Marco and Harrington venture outside after receiving permission from Charles. Charles cautions them not to be gone for long, highlighting the urgency of their final hours on Mars. Inside the base, Robert sparks a conversation with Vincent, inquiring whether he is excited about returning home after their extended stay on the Red Planet. Vincent's response is thoughtful and introspective. He expresses that his happiness about returning home hinges not on the return itself, but on the success of their mission. For Vincent, the fulfillment of their objectives is key to feeling satisfied with their time on Mars. Meanwhile, Kim takes a moment to explore Marco's workstation, delving into his research findings. Lauren attempts to intervene, pointing out that it's inappropriate to sift through a colleague's work, especially in Marco's absence. Despite this, the commotion draws the attention of the entire team, who gather around to see what Kim has uncovered. To everyone's shock, Kim discovers that Marco has been hiding significant findings about abiotic cells. This revelation is astounding, as uncovering such cells was the primary mission of their expedition to Mars. The team is left speechless by Marco's secretive actions, feeling betrayed that he withheld crucial information. They suspect that Marco intended to claim sole credit for the discovery upon their return to Earth, a move that angers even Charles, who is unaware of these findings. In a tense moment, Charles contacts Harrington, instructing him and Marco to return to camp immediately due to the site they are exploring soon becoming off-limits. However, Marco is deeply immersed in testing his sample box and is startled by the results he observes. Unwilling to speak with Charles at that moment, Marco dismisses Harrington's request. Tragically, it is then that a disaster strikes, claiming Marco's life as he calls out for help. Back at the base, the team, including Vincent, is confronted with the aftermath of the accident and the sight of Marco's body. Amidst this grim scene, Kim broaches the topic of making their discovery public. Vincent reacts with anger and disbelief, dismayed that Kim would prioritize their mission over the loss of their colleague. This leads to a heated exchange between them, with Kim arguing for focusing on their mission objectives. However, the rest of the team stands in opposition to her viewpoint, criticizing her lack of empathy and human decency in the face of such a tragic loss. Soon after, the team is faced with the grim task of retrieving Marco's body, a mission that leaves them somber and focused. Harrington and Kim are asked to stay at the base, while the rest of the team, led by Charles, sets out for the accident site. Lauren, who is the first to arrive at the site, waits near the ship and attempts to relay the requested information back to the team. However, her voice trembles with nervousness as she abruptly reports that someone is approaching, and then the communication line goes dead. This sudden cutoff leaves Charles, the team leader, deeply concerned and filled with guilt, especially since he had granted Marco permission to leave the base. The team reaches the accident site under the cover of darkness, adding to the eerie and unsettling atmosphere. Vincent bravely ventures into the hole where Marco fell. As he descends, he notices something unusual on the rock that appears to be alive. He reports this observation to his team while continuing deeper into the hole. However, Vincent's traumatic memories begin to overwhelm him, hindering his progress. Recognizing his distress, the team decides to pull him up before he can reach Marco's body. When questioned about what happened, Vincent insists he is fine, but adds that he didn't see Marco's body at the bottom of the hole. At this moment, Robert contacts Charles with a puzzling discovery. He has detected 2 sets of footprints leading over the rift valleys and back to the base. This information confuses the team, leading Charles to speculate that the footprints might belong to Lauren and Marco. He orders Kim and Harrington at the base to be on standby, preparing for the possibility that the pair might return. Back at the base, Kim and Harrington follow Charles's instructions and prepare for someone's arrival. When they receive a signal that someone is at the door, Harrington rushes to open it, despite Kim's cautious advice to wait for an identity confirmation. Kim tries to identify the visitor through the camera and is baffled to see a figure walking in an odd, dragging manner towards the base. As Harrington opens the door, he is shocked to find Marco standing there, barely able to remain upright. Harrington removes Marco's helmet to check on him, only to be met with a horrifying sight. The face staring back at him doesn't resemble Marco at all, but rather something monstrous. In a sudden and terrifying turn of events, the creature that appears to be Marco lunges at Harrington, attacking him viciously. In this tense atmosphere, the team outside the base grows increasingly anxious and concerned. Unable to establish contact with anyone inside and aware of the alarming situation, they fear for their colleagues' safety. Inside the base, Kim faces a desperate fight for survival against Lauren and Marco, who have transformed into monstrous beings. Upon reaching the base, Charles takes immediate charge of the situation. He instructs the team to stay put and cautiously enters the base. The sight that greets him is horrifying. The interior is splattered with blood, a testament to the violent struggle that has taken place. Charles finds Kim engaged in a fierce battle with Marco. She frantically explains to him that their teammates are no longer themselves and are attacking the others. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Charles urges Kim to wear her suit and leave the base immediately, assuring her that he will follow shortly. After Kim exits, Charles attempts to leave as well, but is visibly injured and bleeding. When the other team members see Charles and Kim emerge, they are overwhelmed with confusion and shock, struggling to comprehend the full extent of the chaos that has unfolded. The team makes the difficult decision to lock the base, leaving Marco, Lauren, and Harrington inside, effectively isolating the threat. They then move Charles to another base, hoping to treat his injuries and alleviate his pain. Despite their efforts, Charles's condition worsens rapidly. He becomes delirious and attacks Robert in a sudden outburst, prompting Vincent to try to calm him. In a tragic turn of events, Charles submits to his injuries and dies, leaving the team in shock with his ominous final words that they will never see home again. In the aftermath, Kim takes a practical but unsettling step by tying Charles's body to the bed. This action prompts a harsh rebuke from Robert, who is distressed by the treatment of a deceased team member. Kim, however, insists that Charles is not truly dead, drawing attention to the bizarre behavior exhibited by Lauren and Marco. Robert breaks down, expressing his exhaustion and longing to return home, overwhelmed by the nightmare unfolding around them. Meanwhile, Vincent ventures through a tunnel back to the old base, drawing the infected away from the others. Back at their temporary base, Kim, Rebecca, and Robert conduct a study on Charles's body, discovering that he was infected by the same sample that had transformed Marco. They observe unnatural movements in Charles's body and administer an injection to sedate him, trying to manage the situation as best as they can under the dire circumstances. As the intense and harrowing events of the story continue to unfold, Vincent makes his way back to the base, only to find that the situation has escalated further. Marco and Lauren, now infected and transformed, begin to head back to the base. In a desperate attempt to prevent them from entering, Robert and Kim devise a plan to distract and lure them away. Vincent, navigating through the old base, unexpectedly encounters Harrington. An intense struggle ensues, but Vincent quickly realizes that he is no match for Harrington's heightened strength and energy due to the infection. In a desperate bid for survival, Vincent flees, racing through the tunnel without securing it behind him. Harrington, relentless in pursuit, follows Vincent into the tunnel. Amidst this chaos, Vincent reaches out to his team, pleading for them to open the exit. As he emerges from the tunnel, Harrington is close on his heels, intent on capturing him. In a critical moment, Kim intervenes, placing herself between Harrington and the rest of the team. She bravely instructs them to escape while she confronts Harrington, promising to follow shortly. As the team hesitates, Robert glimpses movement from Charles's body, realizing that the bacteria are resisting the injection. In a heart-wrenching decision, Robert closes the door on Kim as she pleads for him to open it, sacrificing her in a desperate bid to protect the rest of the team. With only 3 team members left, Robert takes on the task of checking the batteries of another ship, hoping to find a way off the planet. He instructs Vincent to leave Rebecca behind, suspecting that she too might be infected. Vincent strongly refuses. Robert, driven by fear and his own injuries from Charles's attack, makes the difficult decision to start the engine and leave, abandoning Vincent and Rebecca. Vincent and Rebecca spend the night together, but when Vincent wakes up, he finds himself alone. Venturing out in search of her, he eventually spots Rebecca from a distance. Calling out to her, he is met with a heart-rending response. Rebecca tells him that she can't continue with him and, in a moment of desperation, removes her suit. Vincent rushes to her aid, trying to redress her, but it's unsuccessful. Rebecca, struggling for oxygen, collapses and dies in his arms. In a shocking twist, her body reanimates, driven by the infection, and she stands to attack Vincent. Caught between grief and survival, Vincent is forced to confront the painful reality. Rebecca, no longer in control of her actions, pleads with him to end her suffering. In a moment of profound anguish, Vincent fulfills her last wish by repeatedly striking her with a stone, ending her life as she submits to the infection. In the gripping climax of the movie, Vincent, after enduring unimaginable horrors, spots the spacecraft that Robert had previously used. Driven by a mix of desperation and determination, he races towards the craft, his mind momentarily consumed by traumatic memories from a past incident in Aurora. Upon reaching the spacecraft, Vincent climbs inside and is met with a chilling sight. Robert slumped over in the pilot seat, appearing lifeless. However, this moment of stillness is short-lived. Robert suddenly stirs and locks eyes with Vincent, revealing that he is still alive but infected and no longer in control of his actions. An intense struggle ensues as Robert, driven by the infection, aggressively attacks Vincent. Caught off guard, Vincent reacts instinctively, defending himself and fighting back against the infected Robert. The conflict escalates as Robert manages to overpower Vincent, pinning him down and stabbing him in the face with a knife. Despite his injury, Vincent is still conscious and watches as Robert starts the spacecraft's engine and begins to take off. The fight continues inside the flying aircraft, with both men grappling for control. In a brutal and exhausting battle, Vincent eventually gains the upper hand, managing to overpower and eject Robert from the spacecraft. After this harrowing confrontation, Vincent quickly turns the oxygen supply back on, which he had disabled during the fight. He then notices a cut on his face, a grim reminder of the altercation and a potential sign of his own infection. Resolute in facing the reality of his situation, Vincent administers a resistant drug to himself in a bid to combat the infection. In his final act, Vincent records a message to the Central Control on Earth. He somberly reports that all team members have fallen victim to a virulent bacterial infection. Acknowledging the possibility that he too might be infected, Vincent vows to wait for rescue or, if necessary, to destroy himself and the spacecraft in the atmosphere to prevent the spread of the infection. As he sends his recording, his eyes brim with tears, a deep reflection of the devastating experiences and losses he has endured during the mission. The movie concludes with Vincent's tearful farewell, marking a haunting and emotional ending. His final message, filled with sorrow and resignation, underscores the tragic and isolating journey he has faced on Mars, marking a somber and impactful